Hello and welcome back to the Tin Barn. I'm Pragmatic Lee, and in today's video we're going to see if I can do some trepanning on my lathe. There's been a couple of projects in the last few months or in the last year that I've done that several folks have commented that, well, you shouldn't have wasted all that material or turned all that material in the center to chips. You should have trepanned it out. Now, let's look at what trepanning actually is. Got a simple little piece of stock here. This happens to be something I picked up in my scrap pile or my materials pile. It's got a hole in it over here on this side. A hole this size, not a big deal. Just drill it out and maybe bore it to size. But let's say we wanted a hole over here. I could use a hole saw if I had a hole saw the right size. I could drill through the center of it and then bore it out. This is not the best example in the world because this is not that big a piece. Here's a picture of one of those projects I did where I was told that I should have trepanned the center out. In this piece that you're seeing right now, this was a bracket to go around the spindle on the surface grinder. And that material that was taken out of there was done with drilling it out to 1 inch, the largest bit I've got, and then simply boring it out on the lathe until I got that size. Yes, there was a lot of chips, awful lot of chips. So what trepanning is, again, taking a piece like this, and instead of starting with a hole and then boring it out larger and larger and larger, we cut a simple slot around, leaving the core whole. And that's what we're going to try today in this video, is see if my lathe is 11-inch lathe, see if we can trepan with it, or see if I can trepan with it. I'm sure the lathe can handle it. See if I got the finesse in my hands to not only control the tool as we're cutting it into it, not stalling the lathe, not breaking the tool, etc. But the first thing we've got to do, and see if I've got the ability of doing, is to turn this piece of, this is 1/2 inch high-speed steel, 5% cobalt, turn it into a trepanning tool. Let's look a little closer. Okay, as I say, I got this piece of 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch, 4 inch long. It's high-speed steel, and it is not sure if you can see it in there, CO, 5% cobalt. What we need to do is grind this or form this into a tool where we have just a small edge, small cutting tool that will plunge into our workpiece. Plunge over here as the workpiece is turning round and round, and cut that out, very much like a parting tool, but made to go into the face of the piece instead of perpendicular. Now I've laid down on the tool, I'm going to make this cutting surface about 125 thousandths here. Getting a lot, okay, maybe we can see it there. But I'm going to make the cutting portion of the tool 1/8 inch wide. Now, Tom Lipton, Ox Tool Co., did a video several years ago on grinding a tool to do some trepanning on. And he suggested, or he commented in that video, that the depth that you can go is approximately 6 to 8 times the diameter of this. So if that's, let's say it was 100 thousandths, he's saying we can go 600 to 800 thousandths deep. I think I've got about 600 thousandths here, meaning if this tool turns out good, I should be able to trepan something up to a 1/2 inch thick. We're going to cut this portion out right here. Now that would be a lot of grinding to take this out. So I think what we're going to do is just like Tom did, is take our disc grinder and cut out the majority of that. Then we'll go to the bench grinder and dress it up. So let's turn over to the vise now and we'll see if we can cut this out. Okay, let's see how this is going to work. I've got the piece of tool stock in the lathe, or in the vise now. And I'm going to take the grinder and see if we can cut the bulk of this, see if we can cut out the bulk. Okay, that's cutting good, but I'm running into the vise here. Let me see if I can get a little different setup, and I'll bring you right back. Okay, I've got the piece of tool still extended out now. Alright, that cut that pretty good, and I know butter is hot. But I'm going to swing the vise now around where I can cut in from this side and still hopefully be able to see it in the camera. All right, I'm sure that is extremely hot right now. So I'm going to let that cool, and then we're going to turn over to the grinder and see if we can start forming our cutting tool. Before I start grinding on the workpiece, I want to try to show you a little bit of what I'm going to try to accomplish as I grind this tool. I've exaggerated it here on the drawing, but let's say the entire workpiece is, you know, some size larger than this outside diameter here. And the hole we want to cut out is this inside diameter. Our tool is going to plunge in just like this. This will be mounted in a tool holder on the lathe and will plunge into the workpiece. This inside edge right here, which is outside on the tool, will not need very much relief at all, because as you can see, the material is working away, is turning away from the cutting tool. However, on the outside, the material is turning into the workpiece or into the tool, and so we'll need to grind a relief on the end down here of our workpiece as it faces in, or on our tool, somewhat of a rounded surface. The relief, as far as plunging in, I'm just using what the factory on this piece of tool steel was, which is about 20 degrees in there. I want to keep as much strength up here in the top of this tool as possible. What I'm going to do is use this, or attempt to use this little bench grinder right here. If you've been with the channel long, you've heard me talk about the dirty side of the tin boring, and that's where this usually resides. My grinders, sanders, welders, so forth, are over in the dirty side. But I brought this in here and got it clamped to the workbench just for several reasons. It's climate controlled in here. I've got the air conditioner going, and the lighting is a whole lot better. So I'm not going to expect you guys to watch me do all this grinding, but I'll bring you along periodically and show you how I'm coming on this tool. Okay, hopefully I've got the tool ground properly now. As I said before, what we're doing, we're looking for some extra relief on the outside out here. What's the outside of the workpiece, which will be the inside edge of the cutting tool. Now I put a piece of masking tape on there to try to give a little contrast, but hopefully you can see I've tried to replicate the mirror image here as this is going to go in. Now what I want to do is take this piece over to the lathe, mount it in the lathe, and trepan out this inner circle right here. How we're going to hold this in the lathe? Not with the 4-jaw. Give me a second, I'll be set up and you can see how we're going to hold it. Okay, over here on the lathe, I've got the faceplate mounted, and this piece right here is one I made in a video several years ago, but it's much finer or much greater number of holes in this than I do on the cast iron faceplate. Plus, this piece made out of aluminum is meant to be somewhat of a sacrificial piece. Now, the way we're going to hold our workpiece on there, I've got a little center indicated here. We're going to take one of those dead centers that we sharpened. I think it was in the last video. I've got an extension on my dead center here in the lathe tailstock. It's just a 3MT to a 3MT, or is it 5MT? I can't remember right now. Anyhow, I've got it extended out, so I got room to work up here. Now that we've got that in place, I'm going to take my little clamp kit. And by the way, I've got the emergency stop engaged on the lathe now, so I don't accidentally hit something and turn it on while I'm doing this. But we got these little toe clamps. And again, I made these in a lathe. In a video quite some time ago, I think. So we'll find a close hole. These holes in this mounting plate are on 1-inch centers in both directions. Okay, now for the actual setup on the compound. I could plan to use the wheel down here and move the whole carriage in. I'm definitely not going to power feed that. Or I can swing the compound around and set the quick change tool post directly perpendicular with that. That way I can use this, and I think I'll have much more control over it to feed in. So I'm going to get this set up at perfectly at 90 degrees to the plate, and get the tool we've just ground mounted in the tool post, or mounted in the tool holder. I'll get all that done, and then I'll bring you back. Now what we're starting with is a piece of 1/2 inch thick aluminum. If that works, we may go to some steel, and if I have time in this video. Let me get all this set up and I'll bring you right back. Alright, I've got you set up now as you're looking from the back of the lathe. You're mounted above the workpiece, but on the back side of the lathe. What I did was take my machining square and be certain that the compound was set at parallel with the workpiece, or 90 degrees on the square. Then I took the square and made certain the tool post was square to the compound. And then finally, just in case the tool holder wasn't exactly square, I double checked that the tool itself is square with the workpiece. Now what I'm going to do, I've got the compound backed up, and I'm going to bring this in where it doesn't quite touch, and just off camera here I'll lock the carriage down so the carriage cannot move, but I can feed in using the compound. And I've made certain, one, that these clamps are going to clear, and that I've got enough space in here to trepan in that 1/2 inch to cut this piece. Now, we'll likely scratch this mounting plate back here, but that's fine. This is, as I say, this aluminum is a sacrificial piece. All right, let's turn on. And I'm at about 200 RPM. Let's see, I'll move in just a little bit to our line. I'm going to give it just a little more RPM. And that workpiece not being a square piece, it's a little out of balance. All right, I'm going to let that chip get out of the way, or push it out of the way. Now, of course, you folks can't see it on that side, but I think I need to take just a little more relief on the back side of this tool. Let me get the camera, or get my iPhone and take you guys a picture of that so that you can see what I'm talking about. All right, in that picture, what I want to do is give the tool just a little bit more relief. Okay, while I was stopped to regrind the tool, I went ahead and put you guys back in a different position. I reviewed that last video segment, and you guys were shaking too bad, and I don't want to make you sick. So I got you at the end of the lathe now, and I got just a little more relief ground on this side of the tool. And in Tom Lipton's video, he ground a little chip breaker in the end. So I tried that too. I've put just a little relief down in here, so hopefully that chip will bend over in there and break off. Being this gummy aluminum though, I don't expect it to break the chip. One other thing I did check as well when I was doing all the squaring in here, I did check the tool height on this and set it just maybe 10 thousandths below center. All right, I'm going to, let's see, let's be sure we got everything in place again. Carriage is up and locked in place. We got clearance. And we got enough room in here to go in our 1/2 inch. And I've upped that RPM to about 300 now. Let's use a little WD-40 and see if that might keep that chip from sticking. Well, either the WD-40 or that little chip breaker is making a difference. Got a little over aggressive right there. Folks, this is the first time I've ever tried this, so if you see something I'm doing wrong, let me know. Again, the belt is slipping a little bit on this lathe right now. Trepanning is like doing a super big part when you're parting into a piece, and this gummy aluminum is binding up a little bit. I think what I'm doing wrong here is just not backing off and letting that chip get out of the way. I'm getting impatient, I guess. But we're almost through this ½ inch. Alright, I'm going to try a little more RPM. I may be bogging down the lathe just because I'm not spinning it fast enough. I'm about 450 RPM now. Alright folks, it's not the grind on the tool that's causing the issue here. I'm seeing plenty of clearance on this inside. What's happening is this aluminum, and it's definitely not 6062. It's a gummy soft aluminum. That chip, if you can see it right in there, is wadding up in there and it's causing it to bind. Okay, again, I apologize. I lost the audio somewhere in there. But it did work. It appears this is a little better surface on the inside plug than right there. No matter what, if I was trepanning out to try to get this piece, I would cut it obviously a little large. Or if I was trying to get this work piece, I would cut the hole a little smaller. But overall, I think once I get the feel of it, I'm pretty sure what was causing the binding and stalling the lathe was not the grind on the tool. Once I gave it a little bit more relief, that all worked fine. I think it was a combination to begin with of not having enough RPM, and most importantly, feeding it too fast. And the third that probably had some play in it was, I think I called this 60. I think I might have said it was not 6062. It's not 6061. This is considerably softer and gummy. Now, do I stop the video here or do I put a piece of metal in here and see if we can trepan that? Let me give it just a minute to think about it just a minute. Or let me give myself just a minute to think about it. And then we'll see if we're going to wrap this video up or if we're going to step off the deep end. Alright, I want you guys to get your money's worth. So win, lose, or draw, we're going to try to trepan a piece of this 1/4 inch steel plate here. This is definitely scrap. It was cut off a piece of probably 4-inch angle iron. Let's see what it'll do. Okay folks, it looks like my workpiece slipped in there. I've obviously got a lot more learning to do on trepanning. I've tried a couple different grinds on the tools and might have helped some, but that last time it grabbed, it moved the workpiece just a little bit. If you watch now, you'll see that it's not, the outside cut is not running straight anymore. So I'm going to wrap this video up right here. Like I say, I got a lot more to learn about trepanning, but I hope you got a little bit out of it. Maybe the grind part. I think the grind on the tool was good. It's just combination of me not having the finesse to get a steady feed in, and maybe some to do with the power of the lathe. But you guys take care, and I'll see if I can't do better in the next video.